Good. Keminig ha-darshunim ha-mefursamim. Va-ha-negidim ha-mefursamim. I walk down, I'm walking by, shkayach. They don't say shkayach. I walk by the front row. There's a bocher, a teenager, a young boy sitting in front of me, missing his left arm. I'm like, God Almighty. I went to my filing cabinet. Staat no asach meises. Gedacht dat wij sleppen van tash. Punk that meisel. Come on. You know, I was loose with my words. I right away went over to him. And I said, I want to apologize to you. I may have said something that was insensitive. I didn't know you're in the crowd. If I said something that was disrespectful or insensitive to what you go through, I apologize. I thought I was giving a mushal. Well, Paul, there was a nimshal. He looks at me and says, Rabbi, why are you apologizing? I do judo. I'm like, really? I turned to the Rav who invited me. I said, listen to me. Put this kid up now. Let him tell his story. Let him tell his story. He asked me. He gets up to tell his story. The Olam thought it was a rehearsal for 3 months. Verstehst doch? You know what I mean? And when I said not, he's not a faker too. A bluffer too. I couldn't win that one. But he gets up. I'm going to tell you one akud. It's a bocher, yeshiva bocher. He struggled a lot. He went his own path. Hearts from gold. Special kid, bright. Yefei Toya, Yefei Mara. Went to Eretz Yisrael. A Hamas missile from Gaza blew off his left arm. He was in the hospital for months. Went home in Israel, Yisrael, depressed. He's handsome, powerful, he's a fighter. He's very athletic. This was his chush. He was an athletic kid. Without an arm. There's no life. He was in his apartment for months. He didn't go out. Terrible dikon. Terrible. A young kid, 18, 19. It was just almost a young, innocent kid. And he already, he had difficult experiences already in his life. He's saying this barabim publicly. A friend comes into him one day and says, Izzy, we're going outside. You need to see the ear. He says, I'm not going anywhere. It's a beautiful day. So I'm going to take you to a private beach. Just get your feet wet. Look at the sun. Look at the sky. Look at the water. You have to see the world. You can't lock yourself up for the rest of your life. He forces him out of bed. Takes him in a car. Takes him to a private beach. It's a beautiful day. He says he's sitting. Can't swim. He's a professional swimmer. Can't swim. It's one arm. But he's right near the water. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Suddenly, he sees deep in the ocean a hand shaking. He sees somebody's going down. He's himself at the beach. His chave went to a pub. He's went to a kretschmer, an inn. He was, whatever he was drinking, coffee, beer, wine, I don't know what he was saying, l'chaim. Up on the hill. He's alone, one arm, and this person is with a hand up. He sees a mensch that trinkt sich. What do? He knew it's a matter of seconds. So he screams on top of his lungs to his friend, come to the beach, or in whatever language. And he decides he's going. Jumps into the water. He starts swimming with one arm. He reaches the person and he feels the current, what's it called, the undercurrent. The Mayim Rabin. And he understood the person. And he chaps the person. His friend heard him. So his friend comes running down. He's holding this person with one arm, obviously. His friend is a good swimmer with two arms, comes running to help the matzav. The tide schleps away his friend. So now he needs to save two people with one arm. He tells us, he says, this is what I did. I dived down, I jumped down, I put both of my feet in the sand, but I was underwater. I lifted up my one arm like a tree, and both people were holding on to my arm, but I was underwater. Now I'm thinking, how long can I be underwater? 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. If I stay underwater, I die, but Mela, they both die. If I leave them, I go back, two people die. If I go back up, could be all three die. What do you do? He's thinking, it's 10 seconds, he's soon gonna, he won't be able to breathe anymore, but if he comes up, he can't hold him. He's now like a tree. Mamish an eitz chayim lo machazikim bo, but not for long. V'samchem me'isher, as long as it's up, not if he's dead. And he tells us, he's like after 12 seconds, the current receded, it relaxed. So the height of the wave receded, it went down. So he could, for a second, pick up his mouth and get a little air, then he goes back down. But it already became bearable, he can go up and down for air. And then, after a few minutes, it relaxed and he saved everybody. Comes back. He says, I came home and I said to myself, there's people who live their whole life, Baruch Hashem, with two arms, but they can't say they saved mamish two yidden mimavos l'chaim. I did through swimming. This means my life is not purposeless. My life still has a bright future. And he got his life together. He now trains people missing an arm. He's one of the first people in the history of Eretz Yisrael to train people with one arm, to be able to function, to be able to protect themselves, to be able to fight over the enemy. And he has a whole career as a chashav. He became fascinating. This little bachel. He's telling the story after I told the story about Judah. Went over to him, I gave him a hug. I told him, Izzy, I was feeling so guilty that I told that Maisa. I felt it was so insensitive. It's like, mamish amichshel, you say the wrong thing. But I want to thank you. What it did for all of us. What it did for all of us. So I was invited to speak in a crazy place. Probably not many of you are familiar with what Sufism is. Sufism, you're going to laugh, it's the Kabbalah of Islam. The Islamic religion has Mekubalim. Besides Mekubalim, they're busy with mysticism. It's called Sufis. There's a Sufi bookstore in Lower Manhattan. They asked me, a Yiddish maid works there. She knows me, she calls me. She says, could you come speak to the people here? First time I got invited to speak to Muslim Mekubalim. So I brush up on my Quran from the yeshiva days. What am I going to speak to Muslims? What am I going to talk? Parshas Eikev? What am I going to talk? So I get my little training in the basics, and I thought, you know what? Maybe the Greise Chacham Jacobson is going to knock some sense into the Muslims, and I'll change the whole world. Of course, Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Obama, Netanyahu, Kerry, was darf ich say? I'll change them. I prepared, it was a hard drusha to prepare for. Verstehst du, I couldn't take out some seifer, another seifer, it wasn't working. I mamish had to work Yom V'Layla. I come Thursday night, Lal Shishi, to the Chabura, Sufi bookstore, 200 people. I look, So als Yidden. I see on the nose, but zettig gleich. Zettig gleich, I see the weight, the nose, the matzav, the mahalach. I understood the matzav. Jews are so thirsty for ruchnius. They go to Buddhism, they go to Hinduism, they go to Sufism. Yidden. I'm like, I'm going to talk to 200 Jews about Islam. She wants me to talk about Sufism. I press delete in my brain. I take out one of the old files, good old Judaism. I'll call it Sufism. They know the difference. Energy, I'm going to talk about energy, oneness, cosmos, integration, healing, awareness, mindfulness. They'll know what it is. The Yiddish Kinder, I'm going to talk to them about Islam. As though I'm the expert on Islam. I sit down with them, say I'm going to teach you the depth of Sufism tonight. I give them a geschmack of my Chassidus in a good English. Wanted to say something else, whatever. They loved it. Spoke about relationships, meditation, God, ego, truth, honesty, all the good things. At the end, I tell them, you want to keep a contact? Yeah. I say, I send out, Mr. Shabbos, a weekly email in English on my email, on the Machshav of Yiddishkeit. If you want, you give me your email, I'll send it to you. Shine. They give me, I do it wherever I go. I usually do it if it's not Shabbos, Yom Tov. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting Thursday night. Nothing comes to my mind. People rely on it. Some people use it for drushas. Nothing comes to my mind. Was Titman? I believe in the klal of Babakama, goynev min agan of Potter. You know what? I'm not coming up with something new. I can also use old stuff. I take an old mice that I had in my computer. It had to do with the parsha, like turtles with New Zealand. It was 4 a.m. I didn't have koyach. I was frustrated. I pressed send, and I went to sleep. I have to say, I felt empty. It was the first time I didn't produce echte material, YYJ, good material. It was zugehackt, weißt du, mamisch, vercheppet a meise with the parsha. It was parsha shmos. But you know what? I was too tired. I don't always have to be on. You'll let it be off. I'll deal with it in therapy. I went to sleep. The next Thursday night, the middle of the night, I'm sitting by the computer, and nice essay coming out. I'm almost done. This is the old days of AOL, Zechroinel of Rochi. Remember AOL, America Online? When you used to get an email, you got mail. You got mail. It's the middle of the night. I'm finishing. You got mail. I want to see who's sending me emails. I open it up. A woman, I met you in the Sufi bookstore. I gave you my email. Since then, I've been reading it last few weeks. I love it very much. She tells me her whole maisa. She grew up in New York. Ayidish Meidula. Went through different experiences. I'm not going to be Meirich Mitnei Sibis. And she completely left. She became a Zen Buddhist. You know what a Zen Buddhist is? It's not a yeshivish name. Let's put it that way. Vait, min ha-kutza el ha-kotza. It's one of the Far Eastern disciplines, which entails a lot of things. It could entail things about Avodah Zarah, lav dafka, but it could. But it's very spiritual, very spiritual. A lot of meditation, etc. She became, her therapist is a Zen Buddhist. Her uncle called her up that day. She's writing. The only person in the family she has a relationship with, because the family is to shit it, her uncle. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he doesn't have hope. A little while before, her only relationship she had with somebody, it's a bracha. She says, my life was completely broken. Completely broken. I went to my therapist, came home, it was so zerbrochen. And she's telling me what she was thinking about her future. It was very, very sad what she was thinking. She said, it's the middle of the night, I'm crying. And first time in years, I turned to God and I said, in our words, Kaylee, Kaylee, lama azavtani. Why do you abandon me? As I'm crying, she tells me it's 4 a.m. and suddenly, you've got mail. Who's sending me 4 a.m? I see Rabbi, why Jacobson? What does the rabbi say? I open it up. I see. You write, this was that email. I want to share with you a story about the Baal Shem Tov. Which story did I send? Did I find it sent out? I made a tzut shepanish with the parsha. It's before Rosh Hashanah, a few weeks. Baal Shem Tov calls him the Heliker of Wolf Kitzes. And he says, you're going to blow the shofar, aber greit sich zu, all the kavonas. Wolf Kitzes, Chosei Yogan prepares. Kavonas, Arizal, Mamish, he prepares for weeks and he takes notes. So he could prepare, he could remember. Comes Rosh Hashanah Tkiyas by the Heliker Baal Shem Tov in Mezhebush. Comes this man of Tkiyas. The guy Machta sein der Eberste King. It's the holiest moment of the year. Binyan HaMalchus. He can't find his notes. He can't find his kavan. You know what happens? You go blank. You get confused. He gets up. Baal Shem Tov is waiting. He's blank. Those of you who do public speaking, you know, you don't have your notes. You get up. You want the earth should swallow you up. He doesn't have his kavonas. He's so blank, he can't find it anywhere. So what does he do? He has no breda. He takes the shofar, he makes the bracha, and he blows the aposhet. It's a bracha in the yid. He feels that he let down the tzaddik Yesod Olam, that on him stands the world, the Heliker Baal Shem Tov, who entrusted him with the greatest moment of Tkiyas Shofar to be Machter Hashem, which really decides the whole matzav of the year. He's so zerbrochen. At the end of davening, the Baal Shem Tov walks over to his Talmud. Says, Reb Wolf, in heaven there's many, many chambers. Many heichulas, many chambers. Every heichel has a key, different key. There's one master key for all the heichulas. A master key for all the chambers. What? Says the Baal Shem Tov, a humble heart. A humble heart. A real humble heart. No ego, no yeshes. A zerbrochen heart. It's the master key. Reb Wolf, today you gave us the master key. You opened up every heichel. Gave him back his neshama. This was the story I wrote. She writes to me. She says it's 4 a.m. She was thinking the worst. God, why did you abandon me? All I have is humility, brokenness. And suddenly I read the word from the Baal Shem Tov. This is the deepest relationship. It's the master key. Aye, Mekoim Kvoida. In the aye, that's where Mekoim Kvoida is. This is the moment. Why, what, when, I don't know, but this is the moment. You gave me back my life. I'm looking, I'm reading. I start trembling. She signs her name. She signs her first name, and then she signs her last name. Kitzes. Then she writes, P.S. P.S. I grew up in a home. My grandparents were old people, they were there. My Baba, my grandmother told me that we're 9th generation of a holy Jew whose name was Rabbi Wolf Kitzes, K-I-T-Z-E-S. I asked my grandmother, who is this Jew? She wasn't in a frum family. She said, I don't know, but he was a very, very holy Jew. If you ever need anything, you turn to your grandfather and you ask him to get from God what you need. She says, I forgot about it. Suddenly, in my lowest moment, I see a message that the Baal Shem Tov sent to the Wolf Kitzes. Obviously, my Zayda chose you, Rabbi Jacobson. to give me the story, the word he heard from the Baal Shem Tov, to save and pick up my life. And then she writes to me, I don't know how much brilliance and preparation it took from you. Did you have the insight, the Riach HaKodesh, the Chachma Shleima to do this, the Kohenis Mamash? I'm reading it, I was crying, and I'm thinking to myself, it's only because there was no wisdom. I was just a shliach. I was a conduit. I wasn't even there. I hated what I did. That's why it was a miracle. I couldn't disturb it. I couldn't be a michshel. My ego wasn't there. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. I had no satisfaction from the email. When you're not there, God makes miracles through you. And she thanks me for being the shliach of her Zayda. And from this I learned one thing. I learned a lot of things. But one thing I learned. We never know somebody's path. And sometimes the most humble heart and the missing arm becomes the greatest nitzachim, the greatest dveikus, the greatest springboard for the deepest things. I am very afraid to say this, but he told it to me today from one of the people here, so I could chazir it over. And he says, did you ever think about the fact that many of the Gedolei Yisrael that Hashem put in this world after the Churban to rebuild the Jewish people from all different streams were people who their whole life had the pain that was never rectified and did not see for themselves a future. One by one. There's the Chazon Ish, the Satmarov, the Beis Yisrael, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They didn't suffer. What did they do? They took their lives and they became the greatest Oyhavei Yisrael. They took all the love that they wanted to have and they gave it to every Yiddish kid. The Kloisenberger Rebbe Schusay Yogan Alayni was taken to Auschwitz, Erev Shavuos Tovshin Dalet. A wife and 11 children perished. He was liberated Yud Zayin Iyar Tovshin Hey. That Erev Yom Kippur was in the DP camps. I heard this from his nephew, Reb Feivel Mashinsky. A girl comes into, says, Rebbe, I'm a Yesayma, Erev Yom Kippur. Who's going to bless me? Kloisenberger Rebbe says, Ichel the bench. Puts his hands over this little girl. And he blesses her like a father blesses a daughter. She comes out, she was so happy. She tells the other Yisaimas, 80 Yisaimen. He sat, blessed each one, kissed them, hugged them, embraced them. He lost 11 children, he had nothing. This is before he rebuilt his family, anything. What did he, how? He didn't bless them chas v'sholom as a fake, nice guy. He took it all and he gave it to these kids. I know myself, I grew up in Crown Heights. Lubavitcher Rebbe used to get 700 letters a day. He didn't let his secretaries open the envelopes. You know why? They shouldn't read the letters. You ever opened 700 letters a day? So one of the chassidim I know, his name is Chanan, bought him an envelope opener. You know what an envelope opener is? Druch. He gives it back. It's a machzufel kailas. Makes noise. So he goes to Sony. You have a silent one? It's gone. For extra money, we could find it. Pays a hamoina, he gets a silent envelope on it. He gives it in to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He gives it back. This is already this. I guess the Rebbe, he tells his secretary, he just passed away, Klein, Rabbi Yamin Klein. I'll tell you what he told him. Listen to this. He said, different Yidden write me letters. How do they close? How do they seal their envelopes? You know how they seal their envelopes? Some people seal their envelopes with tape. Some people seal their envelopes with saliva, with roik. Some people with staples. Some people with glue. Aber se da Jiden was vermachen sie converted mit Tränen. There are Jews who seal their envelopes with tears. Wie kann ich öffnen mit der Maschine, was a Jid hat vermacht mit Tränen? How can I open with a machine, electric machine, or a Yid close with this? I do it with my finger. I can take in the tears. I'm sure he had terrible pain. He took it, I think, just like the other Gedolei Yisrael. And he became one of the greatest ambassadors of love, light, and hope. For millionen Yiddische Kinder. For millionen Yiddische Kinder. Not one person sat shiva for him after his istalkus. Not one person. You think it wasn't sad? But you know what? 30 million Jews sat shiva for him also. 30 million Kinder sat shiva. I want to finish with this. It taught me such a lesson. Sayyid Abel Zechoset. Rav Meisler said today about the Satmar of Schusayon, whose yard site is this week. Chavov of, I think, 36 yard site. Lamates. And he shared about that experience as well. So somebody told me it's a fascinating thing. Anyways, a Yid in Antwerp, in Antwerp. His name is Reb Feivel Shapiro. He said the story so I could say his name. Abel Zechoset, the classic Bel Feine Yid, came for business to New York. You come from Antwerp to New York for business. Keminig Anshay Shlomaini. He chaps a Mincha Meirev, he needs him, he's in Brooklyn, he chaps in 770 Eastern Parkway. He sees there's a commotion. What's the commotion? Yechidus, people are going into the voucher. So he goes to the grown of the secretary. He says, I'm flying tomorrow, I want to make a bracha. Put me in. He says, 6 months appointment. Which was true, that's how it worked. 6 months. He says, Ich flee morgen. Ich flee morgen. I'm sorry, there's hundreds of people waiting. I can't. It's not pikuach nefesh. So he decides not to listen. And he goes in, he waits, and he sees the secretary goes away for a few minutes. Right? So he tells somebody, he says, when the next guy comes out, before you go in, I'm telling, I just want to see the Lubavitch. I want to get a bracha. Nothing. I'm going in 20 seconds. Just give me a bracha. I leave. I said, okay. So the guy comes in, he chapt sich in the tzim. By the time Groner comes in, he wants to pull him out. But the Rebbe, already he couldn't. The Rebbe was there. He said, Listen, introduce it,